I'm going to show you an amazingly simple technique that will give you the ability to have a positive experience on your awakening and ascension journey. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean, and I work together with an interdimensional, interuniversal, and extraterrestrial force known as Telstar, along with Archangel Michael. One of the beings that I channel in Telstar is someone known as Sangia. And she is an amazingly beautiful, creative, entertaining being. She's also the mate to John. Some of you might know John because I think I posted a couple of channelings of John here on this channel. Now, Sangia in person is tall. She's very elegant. She's beautiful. She has long, kind of opalescent looking hair. She's just gorgeous, and she can be very elegant, but she can also be very entertaining and even quite funny. If you have met her, some of you probably have in past events when I did live events, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She is absolutely amazing. So in this video, I'm going to share with you a wonderful, simple technique that Sangia wanted me to offer you that will really give you the ability to have a very positive, clear, and confident experience of your ascension journey and your awakening process. Now, she wanted me to begin by talking about the complexity of what is happening on this planet. She said that one of the most important things for us to do in order to ascend and evolve into something better is to reframe how we look at all of this complexity. She said that if we don't do this, we risk being swallowed up in the confusion, in the chaos, and in the multitude of lies that we are constantly being told. She said that one of the greatest sources of stress that people are experiencing right now is the stress of trying to make sense out of all of this stuff and somehow knowing what to do. So let's just look at a general overview of what we're dealing with, and then I'll share with you some tips from Sangia about how to reframe all of this in a very constructive way. So here's the overview as how she presented it to me. Right now, we are being bombarded with input from every imaginable source. And when you mix all of that input together, your brain cannot possibly process it all effectively. Instead, it can put you into a state of overwhelm, withdrawal, and reactivity. It can even paralyze you and cause periods of depression or make you feel really hopeless. Sangia said the key to all of this is to simplify all of this input by putting it in their proper categories. It's almost like untangling a mass of stuff and organizing it properly so your brain knows what to do with it. So here are the various categories that she said we need to consider. One category has to do with the controllers of this planet. This consists of a bunch of highly nefarious and very needy entities who currently have an iron grip on the human, the plant, and the animal kingdoms of this planet. These entities are extremely violent and controlling. They are essentially soulless creatures who have zero appreciation for the biological paradise that we call planet Earth. Why do you think they're fine with going to Mars, a barren, desolate planet with no natural beauty at all? The only reason they consider it a viable substitute for Earth is because they really don't have any appreciation for this planet. I mean, can you imagine destroying a place like this and then saying, well, that's okay, we can just go to Mars? Now, it was interesting to me when Sangia emphasized the fact that these controllers are violent. And then I was thinking about the other day, I was watching an interview, a very interesting interview with Linda Moulton Howe, and she was talking about the subject of nuclear bombs. She said that she was told by a military whistleblower that when we first started exploding these nuclear bombs, especially the original ones over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I think the first testing was at White Sands, New Mexico. She was told that we actually tore into other dimensions. And that allowed some very dangerous things to come in here to this dimension that should have never been allowed to cross that barrier. After hearing this, I became rather curious about how many nuclear explosions have actually been detonated on this planet. And I was so shocked, you guys. I was so shocked to learn that since 1945, there have been 2,624 successful nuclear detonations on this planet. I had no idea it was that many. As I said, the first successful nuclear detonation was done in White Sands, New Mexico, and that was in 1945, and a man by the name of Robert Oppenheimer, who was instrumental in creating the first atomic bomb, when he watched that explosion for the first time, he said that a line from an ancient Hindu scripture came into his mind. And that line was, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." So think about this. In less than 100 years, there have been 2,624 nuclear detonations successfully detonated on planet Earth. And if that is tearing into the fabric of other dimensions, then we don't even know what kind of situation we have gotten ourselves into. So, I started to kind of get a clue as to why Sangia was saying that these controllers are exceedingly violent. And that's, of course, only one of the reasons that they are violent. Okay, so back to what Sangia was saying about categories. She said that one category that we need to consider is the corporate war machine. This is one of the major driving forces behind the economy on this planet. So I want you to picture this category as being like a box that has a label on it called corporate war machine. So anything related to weapons, the military, and the intelligence community goes into this box. Now, she said the next category is labeled space wars. This would include any discussions about wars and weapons in space, whether it be about space wars with other Earth-based countries or wars and battles with extraterrestrials. So here's what this category looks like if we picture this as a box labeled space wars. And here are the various things that go inside this box. We have UFOs, intelligence agencies, various extraterrestrial groups, space weapons, the military, various black budget projects, and of course the secret space forces and associated military. And then she said, now you can put these two boxes on a shelf, and the shelf is labeled war and fighting. Okay, so now let's go on to the next category. The next category would be the human slave system. Whenever you hear talk about jobs, money, or school in any form, you can just toss those things into the box called human slave system. See, school and education is for the purpose of training us to work and have a job. Money is designed to motivate our participation and keep us inside of highly controlled and limited parameters of living. And jobs are how all of this stuff gets created. So here's what this category looks like with the components that go inside of it. Now, next we have another category that we can call human maintenance. This category has to do with how we are maintained as humans inside this highly controlled system. So here's what goes into the box called human maintenance. We have things like housing and food and drugs and corporate entertainment and corporate medical care. We have housing to protect us from the elements and protect us from each other. We have food to keep us alive. We have drugs to manage our experience. And we have various forms of controlled entertainment to keep us basically unconscious. And then I think we all know probably what corporate medical care refers to. Now, next, we have the category of controlled human consciousness. And here's what goes into this box. We have corporate mind control, we have religion, and then we have spirituality and New Age thinking. Now, corporate mind control comes chiefly in the form of media, of social media, the news, education, and entertainment. This is where we are told what to think and how to think. And then we have the bureaucracies of religion, where we are told how to interact with God and our Creator. And then finally, we have the freer forms of spirituality in the New Age, which tend to be much more exploratory in nature. Okay, so now we're going to take the last three boxes that I mentioned: human slave system, human maintenance, and human consciousness. And we're going to put those on a shelf that is labeled human productivity. And now we have the final category, which is called AI transference. Now, this is a really big box and it is extremely heavy. Here's what it looks like. We have this box called AI transference, and here are all the things that go inside of this box. We have AI tracking systems and smart tech devices. We have nanotechnology, the internet and AI weapons systems. We have smartphones, apps, and AI algorithms, robots and satellites. We have new power sources for AI and advanced holographic technology, body replacement parts. We have AI interfacing with humans and animals. We have genetic engineering. So that's an example of all the junk that goes in this giant box called AI transference. And then Sangia said, you need a big, sturdy shelf for this box. And this shelf would be labeled AI Takeover of Planet Earth. So now we have 3 shelves with a total of 6 boxes that looks like this. Now, being that Sangia has a wonderful sense of humor, after she showed me all of this, she said to me, now, doesn't that look so much tidier? And then she said, now that we've cleaned up that mess, we can have clarity. We can think straight again. Then she said, now what is left over is everything that's true about you. And what's true about you doesn't have to be organized because it is already held within the inherent order and harmony of nature and of the wider universe. Isn't that just so amazing? She said you don't have to organize what is actually true about you. You only have to discover it and recognize it and then nurture it and support it. And you know, as she was sharing all of this with me, of course, I was going through the mental exercise of visualizing it all. And it felt like such a huge burden got lifted out of my brain. It's so amazing because it's like all that input, all that stuff that's constantly getting thrown at us, and you realize that it just goes in one of those boxes on one of those shelves, and you don't really even have to deal with it if you don't want to. Now, I'm not trying to suggest that she was saying we should just go unconscious to everything. That's not what she meant. This was strictly an exercise to relieve the burden of our brains trying to process everything. It's all mixed together in this big pile, and we're constantly getting all this input and we're trying to sort it out and figure out what's what. So this is really just an exercise that can actually shift your mind into a state of enormous clarity and freedom and relieve you of the burden of all of this in a way that you still can be conscious of it, but it doesn't have to weigh on you. It doesn't have to be like this heavy thing that you feel you have to deal with, and it's just so hard and so frustrating and so confusing. I really see it as like just a simple exercise, a simple technique, but it just produces this amazing mental shift that you're left with the truth of who you really are and the freedom. It's kind of like a cleansing or a clearing. I mean, if you think about all the stuff that goes in all those boxes and what you're actually doing, and I'm presuming if you watched the video this far, you've kind of gone through that process yourself just by watching. Just by doing that, you are clearing so much energy, so much stuff out of your consciousness. I really experience it as like an energy clearing, a powerful clearing of your mind, your brain, your consciousness, so that you can feel much freer and see much more clearly and be so much more easily in touch with who you really are. So I think that was so simple. It was actually quite entertaining to listen to her describe it all, but it just felt so powerfully freeing. And I hope that by listening to this and watching this video, I hope you have gotten a similar sense for yourself. Because what this does is it frees us to really only have the main task of focusing on strengthening what is true about us, which is what will align us beautifully with the ascension process and with the highest possible timeline in that process. So I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you found it enjoyable. And if so, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you think would find this kind of fascinating. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I am here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday with all new videos. And with that, I'm sending you loads of love, light, and high vibrational energy. And I so look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namaste.